The Cardinals got Paul Skenes out of the game after 5 innings on Tuesday, but they never did find a run thereafter. We'll talk about yet another shutout loss and how the injury bug continues to bite the Cards. Coming up on b-schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of b-schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It is Tuesday evening, July 1st, 2025, and I'm on a walk here in my neighborhood, which is why the quality is going to sound a lot different. But today is my birthday, and I just don't want to stay up at my computer until past midnight tonight. Would like to get a little bit of sleep. By the way, if you're in the St. Louis area, I will be subbing in on 590 AM radio at 8 o'clock Wednesday morning for Jimmy the Cat Hayes. He's on the road trip in Pittsburgh. And so it'll be me, Cam Jansen, and Matt Rocchio talking things over 590 AM on your radio dial. As you can hear some fireworks going on out here. The fireworks are not celebrating a Cardinal win tonight, though, as Paul Skenes pitched pretty well. Andre Pallante was even better, but folks, the Cardinals got to do something about this offense. And they weren't able to get anything going against Skenes. And they weren't able to get anything going against the Pittsburgh bullpen tonight as the Pirates got it done 1-0. The winner over the Cardinals as Paul Skenes goes 5 shutout. Pallante goes 7 shutout innings for St. Louis. But I have a favorite adage when talking about baseball, and it's always been this: you can't win if you don't score. And the Cardinals, once again, they didn't score. And I had it pointed out to me on Twitter. I think it's a little bit of an unfair stat, but it's not a wrong stat, that the Cardinals have now gone since, I believe it's since Pete Crow Armstrong had the little twirl out there in whatever that was, the 3rd inning or so of Game 2 of the Cardinals series against the Cubs last week. They've gone that long since they've scored a run against an NL Central team. Now, they scored a bunch of runs against an AL Central team in Cleveland, which is why I say the stat is not totally fair, but it's true. The Cardinals basically stopped scoring at that point in Game 2 against Chicago. They got shut out in Games 3 and 4, and now 2 games in Pittsburgh, not a run in sight as the Cardinals drop Game 2 1-0. If you get it to where Paul Skenes is out of the game and you're still tied, and then your starter Andre Pallante goes 2 extra scoreless innings compared to what Skenes did, you probably got to find a way to win that baseball game, folks. But there's some real concern right now when it pertains to the Cardinal offense. And it's not just the fact that they're not performing against lefties anymore, although Paul Skenes, he's really good. We're not ever going to be surprised by the Cardinals not scoring against Paul Skenes. But it goes beyond just lefties. That's 4 innings that they didn't score against the Pittsburgh bullpen. And you're also starting to see the injuries really mount up for the Cardinals as well. Willson Contreras going in for an x-ray due to a hand injury in this one. He was sent around by Pop Warner still in the game during a moment where the Cardinals may have found their only run if you maybe don't go so aggressively with the send there. And there was just no realm in which Willson Contreras, even fully healthy, I think is going to make that play and score on Tommy Pham. We've seen this before in Pittsburgh. Trying to run on Tommy Pham historically has not gone well, and it happened again tonight. I was not a fan of the send, but I saw some Cardinals fans on Twitter who disagreed with that and said, I don't mind the aggressive send. You're playing Paul Skenes. You've got an opportunity to maybe force the issue there and get a run across in a close game. Go for it. And I think that's a fair way to look at it. I personally didn't like the send, but I also don't think it was the reason they lose the game. You really don't like the way the 9th inning went, though, if you're the Cardinals. You get some runners on base, runners on 2nd and 3rd there, and not able to come up with the tying run in this game. Jose Fermin, that play at the plate, I thought to the naked eye he looked safe to me. But I also saw some people say, I don't know, it looked like his fingers were up off the plate. Knowing the way that these replay issues normally go, I was not surprised to see the Cardinals end up on the wrong end of that one. I'm not saying that it was the wrong call, but it just felt like even if the universal truth would have been safe, that's a stance, the way that tends to go in Major League Baseball 2025. If there's some day that they find a way to adjust replay review in a way that, you don't have to inconclusively, or I should say conclusively, disprove the call in the field, that's where I come in and say the universal truth might have been safe, but it wasn't conclusive enough in the eyes of the replay room. And I'll admit with this one, I was watching the replay and couldn't find a freeze frame that showed his fingers up off the plate or showed definitively. I just thought timing-wise he was safe. But they end up going the other way with it, and unfortunately, the final result of that is that the Cardinals lose this one 1-0. And so now you're sitting here staring down the belly of the beast in a potential sweep at the hands of the Pirates, who, to their credit, are playing some really good baseball right now. I mean, they swept the Mets before they got a hold of St. Louis. So this isn't like it's coming out of nowhere, as you hear some background noise behind me. It's not coming out of nowhere that the Pirates are playing better. And I said this earlier today on the Randy Carricker show, which is aired each day at 10 a.m. on the STL Sports Central YouTube page. This Pirates lineup is better than we're used to seeing. Now, I know they didn't do much tonight, but if you look at the top 5 guys in their batting order, it's a lot different than I think what we're used to seeing. Spencer Horwitz might have ended up being a pretty good pickup for them. We saw him really get to the Cardinals in Game 1 of this series. And then you've got guys like Andrew McCutchen, who you know what he does. You got O'Neal Cruz that's in the mix there. Gonzalez is having a good year for them. They've got like 5 guys in the top 5 of that order with a OPS 700 or better. A lot of them are 750 or above. And then in the bottom of the order, you have guys like Brian Hayes and Tommy Pham, who you know are capable. They're just not having great seasons. So that's a deeper lineup and a more potent lineup for Pittsburgh than we've seen in some years, which we'll take a look at Wednesday afternoon, whether that ends up coming into the play for the Cardinals, and if they're able to maybe win a pitching duel, maybe win a game that's a little bit higher scoring. But to be able to do it, the Cardinals might have to get up off the mat when it comes to some of these injuries. Arenado out of the lineup on Tuesday. He's been dealing with the injury to his hand. Contreras now dealing with something. Wouldn't be surprised if he's going to need to miss a little bit of time, even if that's just a couple of days. Lars Nootbaar was back in the lineup, which I take as maybe a little bit of a surprise, but a good one, because I'm wondering if that intercostal discomfort continues for him. Do the Cardinals end up thinking about putting him on a list and giving him 10 days? They're mounting. Not the update I thought we were going to get from Jordan Walker either, where he was in Pittsburgh, met with the team, and they looked him over, but he's going to go back on a rehab, and he will not be in Chicago for that series against the Cubs. Going to continue to rehab through the weekend. So you're not getting him back right away. We know for Ivan Herrera that it's going to be a little bit of time, and boy, are the Cardinals missing him. We said it when he went down. It was in the midst of that winning streak that the Cardinals were putting together, that it was a couple days later until you really felt the full brunt of the fact that he's not here right now. Because while they're winning games, it's a little bit easier to stomach and say, oh, well, they're going to find a way. They're going to be able to make up for the production that they lose from Herrera. But consistently to do that, I think it's going to be a much tougher task than first realized. And look, I think when it first happened, we knew it was going to be tough. So let me know in the comments here, Cardinals fans. Like I said, apologies for the quality. I'm going to sound like I'm out of breath, too, because I sort of am talking and walking the entire walk. I've been trying to get my 10,000 steps in every day, be a little healthier, and so I'm not trying to take the birthday off either doing that. So that's why you're getting the lesser on the quality tonight, but it's also going to be a little more stream of consciousness from me, because it means I don't have all my stats and everything right in front of me. I'm just kind of going off the cuff for this episode, but just talking through it from a feel standpoint. Frustrating way, I mean, not entirely frustrating. You can't necessarily say that when you had 2 good wins over the Cubs and a sweep of the Guardians, but it has kind of been a weird week, if nothing else, because now you can look back to the beginning of the Cubs series. You split that, you sweep the Guardians, that's 5 out of 7. but then you've lost then 2 in a row to Pittsburgh, so you've won 5 of 9, but it's all come in bunches, good and bad. And it's kind of weird to really put your finger on exactly how to feel about the last week plus, if you're a Cardinals fan who's kind of looking at it and saying, if things go a little bit differently, maybe you find a way to get the run tonight that you needed. You find a way to get a little bit more going offensively in some of these games. The Cardinals could still be on a real roll, and they could be chewing away at the distance between them and the Cubs. But it feels like instead you've sort of stagnated over the past 9 days. And as I'm recording this, the Cubs are leading the Guardians 4-2. So in all likelihood, they'll hold on to win that game and kind of be right back where you started against the Cubs during this stretch for the Cardinals. I guess a slight difference because the Cubs only gained a half a game on Monday. Cubs were absent, vacant. What's the word? Well, they were off. They didn't play on Monday, had a day off. Cardinals fans don't really know what those are, but they're going to get one later this week coming up on Thursday. So Wednesday's game, that's it. And then you go right into the weekend against the Cubs with one day off in between to kind of get your mind right if you're the Cardinals. But you have to hope at this point you're not coming off of a sweep when it happens. 11:35 a.m. is the start time as well for Wednesday. So you're going to get in there pretty early. Get an opportunity to think about it, whatever the result is in Pittsburgh. You'll fly to Chicago and have a nice little layoff because of how early the day game is on Wednesday and then the day off on Thursday. Great place to be off for a day, but the Cardinals are going to need to get the mind right, if nothing else, because it's just been a little bit of a weird stretch. Like I said, you hate to look at 5-4 over the 9 games and say, well, they're playing bad. They're not really, but they certainly haven't been consistent. And that's been an issue for this offense as well. Still an offense that rates in the top half of the league in a lot of statistical categories, but we're seeing, obviously right now, far too many of those games where they don't put up any runs. And you get it against Skenes, but when it comes on the heels of the Heaney game where you don't get it. I mean, you get it because you've seen it. You've seen the Cardinals struggle against left-handed starters recently. And over this 9-game stretch we're talking about, you played 4 left-handed starters, if my math is correct, the ones I can recall anyway. Matthew Boyd, 0s. Shota Imanaga, 0s. Logan Allen would have been 0s if not for the one swing by Nolan Gorman left on left. And then Heaney yesterday puts you in a bad spot. You haven't scored a run outside of one swing from Gorman against left-handed starting pitching. Again, not difficult to know why if you're trying to diagnose it. They miss Herrera. They miss the production they thought they might be getting from Walker. And even some of your guys like Nootbaar, who are some of your better hitters when he's right, even though it's a left-on-left that we'd be talking about, he's not healthy. And so that's a knock on your lineup. And then the righties that are in there, I mean, Contreras and Arenado right now are both dealing with injuries. And even if they weren't, you would say their production probably dipping a little bit below what you need from the right-handers in the middle of your lineup. Sajacy hasn't really contributed very much since coming back up. It's kind of a collective issue right now, and you obviously know the way people are concerned about the rotation, too, with guys like Michaelis and Fetty struggling pretty mightily in their recent outings. Give Pallante his flowers, though. I hope we can at least do that tonight, guys, because his 7 innings tonight, they were key. It didn't give the Cardinals what they hoped for, which was a win. But that was through no fault of Andre Pallante. And I was just done talking about the Pirates lineup being maybe better than it has been in recent years, or even the last time St. Louis saw Pittsburgh. So I want to give Pallante credit, and he's got the ERA now down close to 4 after what he did tonight, 7 scoreless. So let me know in the comments your thoughts about things. Are you more worried about the pitching, or is it kind of shifted now after what Pallante did to look at it and say, it's probably that lineup that you have to be a little bit fearful of? And I would say that that's where I am at relative, one or the other, because, again, with the rotation, we know there's going to be these types of outings. People are starting to get the pitchforks out on Fetty, which is fine. But I think at the end of the day, I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to give him a dozen more starts this year, but if you did, I bet they would be a dozen starts with a 4.5 ERA. You'd be some good with some bad, and at the end of the season, it would be sort of a reflection of the type of pitcher he is, which is that kind of middle on a good day, back end of the rotation on a more normal day, rotation type of guy. Michaelis is the same thing. Pallante, I think, is a little bit of a step above those guys with more upside, and the numbers kind of reflect that as of now. They didn't for a moment, though. But you got to remind yourself, it was 2 weeks ago that everybody wanted Pallante out of the rotation because his ERA was pushing 5. It was like 4.7, 4.8. Well, that's 4.1, and he looks like your third best starter. And that's just kind of the merry-go-round that we've seen these guys, Pallante, Michaelis, and Fetty, go through. And I think if they all stay in the rotation, you'll continue to have similar experiences. But that's sort of what it's been all year long. It's feeling a little bit worse right now than it had been. But generally speaking, this was the way you carved it out. If you're the Cardinals, you're going to have a rotation that mostly you just try to get by with it and see if you can get away with it. And you need an offense, though, to go with that that's going to be top 10. And although the Cardinals came into this Pittsburgh series, I believe 6th in baseball in runs scored and around 12th in OPS, like I said, I'm out on my walk trying to be healthy, dang it. But I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I'm sure the Cardinals have dipped in obviously those categories with these last couple of performances. So you guys give me your impression. I would say that losing 2 to the Pirates while the Cubs conceivably are going to win tonight. Again, you'll know by the time you listen. As I'm recording, that game is still in play, with Cleveland down to their final 3 outs there coming up at Wrigley Field. So the Cubs will have gained a game and a half on the Cardinals, and the Cardinals will be 4 back. But the beauty of it is, still with an opportunity Wednesday to play the Pirates, avoid the sweep. Maybe the Guardians help you out with a win or 2 in that series. I assume the Cubs will play Cleveland again Thursday, so it'll be back to there will be a half somewhere in the deficit between the Cardinals and the Cubs, as the Cardinals will be, I cannot think of the damn word. It's not vacant. Why can't I talk or think? I must be getting old. The more I sit on this and think on this, I think the word that I'm looking for is idle. Nobody cares, but the Cardinals will be idle on Thursday, and the Cubs will be playing. So maybe the Guardians win one of those 3. Cardinals can get behind Sonny Gray on Wednesday and get that one in Pittsburgh. Lineup's going to have to do it. Sonny's not going to hit the home runs for the team. He's going to pitch for you, and he'll probably do a pretty good job. And I know people are disappointed as well that he's not going to be pitching against the Cubs. I think it's unfortunate. I agree with you. I also don't know that the Cardinals should be bending over backward to have Sonny wait a week in between games. Like, they'd been giving him that extra day of rest, so he's going every 6 days instead of 5. This will be on regular 5-day turn. They don't really have an obvious way to get McGreevy back into the rotation anyway. I think you'd have to IL a reliever if you were going to do it. So it's not simple to do that. And so you're going to pitch Sonny Gray on regular rest Wednesday. Evidently, and I talked with Mike Claiborne on STL Sports Central about this, and he would know better than I would, Mike Claiborne of the Cardinal Radio Network. There might be an element to this where Sonny, the preference is not to pitch after a team off day. And, I mean, your guess is as good as mine on why that might be, but he's very routine-oriented. So he might have his day before start routine that is what he does when the team is in action and they're playing at the ballpark, and that's what he does and how he goes about. And so is Sonny Gray more regimented than probably maybe any other starter in baseball? Yes. Did the Cardinals probably have some idea of that when they signed him? Yeah, probably so. If not, they found out pretty quick. And so it's just one of those things that I don't think is the end-all, be-all. The Cardinals need a win, right? I get the games against the Cubs are important, and you could even say more important, because by beating the Cubs, you can guarantee that they lost that day too. But they got to win tomorrow. I mean, the Cardinals got to win on Wednesday, so I don't have a problem with Sonny Gray pitching and trying to be the stopper to a losing skid here. But if you feel differently about that, you can also let me know that in the comments below as well. Hey, I appreciate you guys listening. I know this has not been a very typical podcast. I hope you still found something to get out of it. I wanted to give you some of my reaction to the game. Obviously, the 9th inning was a bizarre way for it to end. Yes, Brendan Donovan shouldn't be sitting on that pitch with the bat on his shoulders for strike 3 to end the game. It was a good pitch, breaking ball inside. Tough pitch by Bednar, who looks to kind of have it back again after a period where he really struggled. But I did see a comment on Twitter of somebody kind of basically saying, Donovan sucks now. Give me a break. He's still one of the Cardinals' best position players, if not the best. And I just think people are too quick to judge and react sometimes. But I also think it comes from a place of passion, so I'm going to try to be understanding of that. But let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of the podcast. Do apologize if I had technical issues recording this all in one fell swoop as I went on my evening walk here. If it was bad, my excuse is I'm an old man now. So 31 years old, for those who needed to know. But hey, appreciate you guys as always for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.